progress are made. And starting from last year, the government board has stopped losing money and started to make money. At this juncture, suddenly we're hearing that the government of Australia wants to take it back. So I really question the ethic value. When you're losing money, you lease it to foreign company, and when it starts making money, you want to take it back. First point, the government of the Chinese government position on these issues. This is a business between Chinese company and Australia. On the basis of we would expect the land bridge company for their distributor to continue or to take a different approach. But the Chinese government has an obligation to protect the legitimate interest of Chinese companies overseas. So that anything happens, like the port will be taken back by force or forceful measures, then we have an obligation to take measure to protect the Chinese company's interest. This is our position now. Ever since then, there have been the communications between the between the two governments, Chinese and Australia. There have been communications between the land bridge and their counterparts, either notaries or the relevant Australian federal government. My embassy has been watching very closely and see how it happens. We'll see when it's time for us to say something, do something, to reflect the Chinese government's position and to reflect that we have the will and determination to protect our Chinese companies' legitimate interests. But at the same time, I would like to see this issue to be properly handled and properly managed so that a message will be sent to the public, to the outside world, to the Chinese company that the Australian government really welcomes foreign investment, welcomes the investment from China, and is ready to create a fair, just, indiscriminatory environment for foreign investors. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Now the floor will go to Ms. Wang Jialing from Xinhua News Agency.
Thank you, Ambassador, and thanks for your speech and answers. So my question is, last month, a senior government official who advises Japanese Prime Minister Takahashi on security expressed a personal opinion that Japan should have nuclear weapons, which causes international concern and widespread criticism. Some commentators argue that Japan is seeking to breach the pacifist constitution and endanger regional peace and stability. So what is China's comment on this? Thank you.
Well, my simple answer is Japan should never be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Briefly, a few points I want to make. More than 80 years ago, the Japanese imperialism launched a brutal war of aggression against the peoples in the Asia-Pacific region, resulting in the deaths of tens of millions of innocent civilians. However, the Japanese government has never completely reflected on these wars of aggression and has yet to offer a sincere apology to countries in the region, including China and Australia. Some in the media are saying they reflected in East Asia culture, in Oriental culture. If you are sincere to apologize, you have to say apologize. At least you have to say very sorry. No, they have never said that. They just reflect. Reflect is somewhat a very, tricky kind of word. It doesn't mean a serious apology. Second, in recent years, Japan's right-wing forces have continuously sought to breach the constitution, increased defense spending for 13 consecutive years, repeatedly relaxed restrictions on arms control, on arms exports, and promoted the so-called normalization of the SDF, self-defense forces, paving the way for the return to being a military power again. These actions reflect the refusal of Japan's right-wing forces to accept defeat in World War II
and their attempt to revive militarism, break free from the international order, and speed up remilitarization. And thirdly, the recent remarks by the senior official from the Japanese government, who advises Japanese Prime Minister on security. And his remarks that Japan should have nuclear weapons are consistent with Japan's efforts to revive militarism. I want to emphasize that in the Second World War, China and Australia, we were allies. Whichever party was in power in China, it was quite different. It doesn't matter. China and Australia, we were on the same side. We were allies during the Second World War. We were fighting together against the Japanese aggression. As been mentioned by the Prime Minister in Darwin recently, during his stopover to Timor-Leste. In China, Australia, we made tremendous sacrifices in resisting Japanese aggression, and we must remain highly vigilant against the resurgence of Japanese militarism and firmly opposed attempts by Japan's right-wing forces to revive militarism. Summer's question, is it possible for the revival of militarism? Look at the history. The history before World War I. What happened during the World War I? And look at what happened between Second World War and the First World War, and what happened in Second World War. We must always be alert to resurgence of militarism of those countries who used to practice militarism, conducted aggressive invasion into foreign countries, and we must be alert that world peace should be maintained by efforts from all countries, including countries who might now have a very special friendly relations with those countries. The peace and stability in the region is so crucial, so important, so valuable. We're lucky when we look at the different parts of the world. Asia Pacific is relatively stable and peace. That is good for people, for stability, for social harmony, and for economic development, for the well-being of our people in the region, in our countries. So I want to emphasize China, Australia share common points in being alert and taking measures to prevent that militarism is not going to be allowed to happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now for the next question, I'd like to invite Mr. Matthew Knowles from Sydney Morning Herald.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I was wondering if you could explain to the Australian people who are curious why it's necessary or was necessary for the PLA to circumnavigate Australia and conduct live fire exercises. Should Australians expect similar exercises in the coming year and in the future?
Thanks for your question. I think I did make some comment on this. Exactly during the time the Chinese Navy was practicing exercises somewhere near Australia. And I happened to be in Tasmania, where the Chinese fleet was in the Tasmanian Sea. It was a coincidence. It was the Chinese military use was normal exercises. It just happened to be conducted in that region, in that part of the world. It's happened to be near Australia, but it was not in Australian territory or even in their EEZ, exclusive economic zones. It was in high sea, conducting publicly, and there was a prior notification to the live drills. So I want to emphasize that the over-interpretation, excessive interpretation into this is not necessary. It has nothing to do with Australia. It has nothing to do with then the ongoing campaign of the federal elections. I said that the Chinese Navy is now conducting exercises in different parts of the world. They also go to Indian Ocean, Atlantic, and they go to North Pacific. They happen to be in the South Pacific during that time. And I'm not sure when they will come again, or they will come to this part of the region. And should that happen, I would advise that over-interpretation is not necessary. China, Australia, we are partners. We look at each other, well, at least from the Chinese point of view, as partners, not as rivals. There's no reason for China to threat Australia. And there's no reason for Australia to interpret the Chinese military exercises are targeting Australia. We should take a more objective, constructive attitude towards these issues that sometimes happen in our bilateral ties. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now the floor will go to Mr. Charles Croucher from China.
Afternoon, Your Excellency. Can I just clarify before, when speaking about the Chinese port, you said that the Chinese government would protect legitimate interests. What are you speaking about when you talk about protecting? What kind of actions would the Chinese government consider?
Well, that's a little bit of hypothetical because the development of the situation has not yet come to that stage. So I'm not sure what specifically we're going to do in response to the situation. But I want to make clear that the Chinese company, the land bridge, has been operating in Darwin Port, making great contribution to local economic development and progress. And that is very much in the interest of the North Territory, very much in the interest of Australia's economy. And it is exactly because of the land bridge who is operating that so many more Chinese companies come to use the port for importing Australian cattle, sheep, beef, and minerals, iron ore, etc. Should land bridge be forced to leave that port, I think it might also affect the substantive investment cooperation trade between Chinese companies with that part of Australia. That is not in the interest of Australia either. Right now we are following closely how things are moving on. We have made clear our views and our hopes that the issue will be handled properly. By properly, I mean that we believe it's important to respect the views of the Chinese company, and the issue should be dealt with according to following the rules of market and business instead of politicizing or pan-security to make a trade relationship into something that is causing unnecessary political consideration or security considerations. That's the point I want to make. I hope that the things will not come to the stage that the Chinese side have to do something as a response. We're watching closely. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Tim Lester from Channel 7 to raise a question.
Ambassador, thank you for your invitation here today. 5 months ago, Australians saw an extraordinary display of military technology and prowess from Beijing, led by your President, President Xi. Since then, that has been used as one argument, at least, for Australia to rapidly increase its defence spending to make sure we're properly protected. Does that surprise you? Does that response surprise you? And how should we take such a display of military might?
Thanks for that good question. I think I'm both surprised and not surprised. I've been here for 4 years as ambassador. I'm fully aware of the situation, of the facts that the Chinese side and the Australian side look at each other with different perspective. We are approaching Australia with a constructive, friendly approach. Want to make friends, build up relationship, and establish cooperation promoted for a common prosperity and progress. We are open to engage with Australia in all possible areas, including defense and military. But on the other side, I have to be honest, that our Australian friends are somewhat cautious in engaging with China in defense, military, science and technology. So that's the bigger picture, that we have different perspective of each other. Perhaps we need time to build up more mutual trust. So when you have, say, Australia's reaction to Chinese military drills, I was not 100% surprised. But I'm surprised that given the stabilization, improvement, development of our bilateral ties, I think there should be more understanding of China, of Chinese policy from the Australian side. Having said all this, the demonstration of Chinese military technology, hardwares, this happened on occasion to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the global anti-fascist war and the Chinese people's war against the Japanese aggression. It was a demonstration to tell the Chinese people in the world that China has developed, achieved progress. We have grown strong enough to protect ourselves. It doesn't say anything to we're going to invade any other country. The Chinese defense is of defensive nature, not of offensive nature. We have no military bases anywhere in the world. We're not our military troops, except for peacekeepers, Chinese peacekeepers under UN Security Council's authority. Otherwise, we have no military troops in any other countries, and we have no intention to send our troops to conquer, invade, or annex any other country. So there should be no worry for China's growth of military power. That power is contributing to peace and stability in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now the floor will go to Mr. Andrew Green from Leslie.
Ambassador, I want to refer to recent reports out of China regarding purges in the People's Liberation Army. Can you explain to the Australian audience, is there a corruption problem within the senior ranks of the PLA, or is President Xi Jinping worried about his future?
Thanks for your question. Anyhow, it's a question somewhat it caused my concern in the sense that there have been some media coverage about this issue. Honestly, I have nothing very much in detail to share with you at this moment, but I can share with you that the spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of Defense already made public statements on this. It's a demonstration of the absolute determination of the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese central leadership to fight against the corruption with no tolerance. Whoever you are, however high you are in a position, or you used to be, whichever you are in, used to make contributions, once you are involved in the corruption, you will be punished according to law. So that is the message this one sending. Any other interpretation is, other than this, is unfounded. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now the floor will go to Ms. Tess Economo from the Australian Associated Press.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for having us here today. In your address, you spoke about how there could be no compromise on Taiwan, and you referenced the trade relationship between our two countries. Are you able to expand on what you meant by no compromise and any implications for trade? Can Australia expect to see sanctions like what was previously done in 2020?
Well, thank you for that question. I wrote an article in the Australian newspaper, and my points are already there. I don't want to repeat that. You can refer back to that article. And my spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry also made remarks on this. So the basic points are there. What I can perhaps add more is that I do feel it's necessary for me to share publicly, since this is a public statement from the DFAT. Otherwise, I'd rather choose to talk about this through diplomatic channels. I've been engaged with their Australian colleagues from DFAT all these 4 years in the past. I'm open, I'm ready anytime to engage with them. But the message I want to send is that there are some facts-related issues, concept-related issues I'm worried that they might mislead the Australian public. So this is the point I want to make. The fact is that there's only one China, and Taiwan is part of China. Taiwan is a province of China. There's the international consensus. And there are, well, now and then mentioning of the status quo, or the public opinion, a peaceful solution, no coherent or this by either media or Australian governments. My response has been that the real status quo is that Taiwan is part of China. That is status quo. For the past several decades, we have not achieved full, complete reunification. That is a temporary phenomenon. However long it lasts, is a temporary phenomenon. This phenomenon does not change the nature of the fact that Taiwan is part of China. Some decades ago, even the regional leaders in Taiwan claim they're going to take the mainland back again. They want to conquer and rule the whole China, including mainland and Taiwan. It's just in recent years that the separatist forces in Taiwan, supported by some forces outside of Taiwan, are trying to seek a permanent division of Taiwan from China. And that is the main concern. The phenomenon of the division across the strait doesn't mean a permanent separation. And the aspiration of the Chinese people are for complete reunification. There are a handful of people in Taiwan who are really seeking die-hard separatists. They don't recognize they are Chinese, and they don't recognize there's only one China. They don't support China's unification. Should be so. They can leave Taiwan. Taiwan is China's territory. If they refuse to be a citizen of China, they can leave the island, and we don't welcome those people who betray our nation. As for the trade sanction you mentioned, I emphasize that in my article, it's unacceptable for us to see that while you benefit from relation with China, at the same time you undermine China's core interests. This is not acceptable. I hope that we'll continue to engage with our Australian colleagues to see that in the future this issue will be properly handled, properly managed, so that we will not have to come to that stage that the Taiwan question is impacting or affecting the overall China-Austria relationship. I wrote an article. I say this that seeking benefits and undermine our core interests is not acceptable. Does not suggest I'm going to suggest economic or trade sanctions. That's not what I mean. I mean to suggest this is not acceptable, and we have different aspects in our bilateral ties. One aspect of our ties is affected, is running the problem, it will inevitably affect other aspects of our bilateral ties. And I hope this is not going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Michael Reid from the Australian Financial Review.
Thank you, Ambassador. What changes are China and Australia examining to their free trade agreement? And relatedly, the Australian government is examining whether or not to put tariffs on Chinese steel. Would that action jeopardise efforts to overhaul the free trade agreement?
Well, first of all, thanks for the question. First of all, last year was the 10th anniversary of FTA between China and Australia. It was the first highest level FTA between China and a Western country. It's setting examples for many other countries to follow. And both countries are continue to benefit from this. It's basically zero tax. Australian products going to Chinese market with zero tax. You can sell products, you can bottle wines to the European market, but you have to pay tax. 10, 16, or 20%. But to Chinese market, zero tax. That's an example. So it's mutually beneficial. And Chinese products also come into Australia with zero tax. But we have not yet completely explored the food potential in our trade relationship. And that's the point that when we celebrate 10th anniversary of FTA, both sides agreed to review and see what more can we do to further benefit our bilateral trade relationship. Second, the process is still going on. It will take some time. I think, to my impression, both sides are now seeking views from relative enterprises or different walks of life in respective countries, listening to the views as to what more can be done. So it's still in the process. I hope the process will be fastened and see we can make a further lifted, upgraded FTA version. Let's say China-Australia FTA version 2 or version 1.1, 1.2. That's very much in need, very much in time when we consider the global economic and trade situation. Second point, for the tariff on Chinese products, we have been notified by the Australian federal government that they are now start to investigate on a possible tariff on Chinese fabricated steel because of their low price. And I think my colleague has already shared our views that we have an FTA agreement that is mutually beneficial. And we are both members of the WTO. Should we conduct any trade remedy practice, it is important to follow exactly the WTO rules. And it should be in accordance with the spirit of FTA between China and Australia. We are a little bit concerned about excessive use of trade remedies. We're still working and engaging with our Australian colleagues through diplomatic channels. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'd like to invite Mr. Navian Razik from SBS to raise a question.
Thank you, Ambassador, for hosting us. I'm going to deviate from geopolitics for a question I came from SBS Chinese language team. On the 27th of August 2024, a 9-month-old baby was seriously burned after a stranger allegedly poured hot coffee on him in Brisbane. And last year, Queensland Police said that that man is now believed to be in China. Well, I appreciate you can't go into some of the details on this. What is the embassy and the government doing to ensure that Chinese and Australian police are working together to ensure that the case can progress and the family can get clear updates and see justice?
Thank you for that question. First of all, I would like to again express my sympathy to the tragic incident that happened. Secondly, we've been communicating with Social Insight relevant departments, and also we've been passing these concerns and messages and requests to China. And thirdly, there have been engagement between the two sides on a properly handling of the issue. Finally, I'm not sure whether I should announce this at this moment, but there's going to be a working group from China coming to Australia, going to Brisbane to investigate, to talk with Australian colleagues to see what exactly happened, how it happened, and see what both sides can work together to as a follow-up. But this is a working level contacts, and we're now preparing for such a working group to come. So we are serious in addressing this concern. We're serious in taking the necessary actions as a follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And since we're approaching the lunch time, I'm afraid we must end this Q&A session. And in the meantime, we understand that there are a few questions still from the friends of the media. I would like to exchange views with Ambassador Xiao, and we strongly encourage you to have informal discussion with Ambassador Xiao during the lunch break. And now we are ready for the buffet lunch, and we have prepared a very beautiful buffet lunch for you. And we hope that we can also facilitate your views and your questions with us, and we're really happy to take the answer. And also we have some very beautiful souvenirs at the other side of the banquet room, and we do hope that you can pick them up and at your own interest and to read about China in a very objective manner. Thanks so much. Thank you for coming, thank you for questions, and thank you for patience. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming for the event, and thank you for your questions. Your question provide an opportunity for me to understand what are the concerns, interests of the Australian people, Australian media, and this is a gathering. This is a briefing. Also, it's a gathering, and I hope you enjoy the delicious Chinese food, and wish you all success in your career in the new year of the horse, and wish you happiness and prosperity, and wish the China-Australia friendship and cooperation relationship go even stronger in the year of the horse. Thank you.